Imagine if you had the rare gift of receiving messages in your head that really were meant for strangers who merely could just be walking by you. Well, that's a gift, and it's also a calling. In fact, it's called, in a formal sense, being a Caulbearer. That's C-A-U-L, as in a veil. Now, you may have heard terms like psychic or medium, and if you stay tuned, you're going to find out in a very fascinating 30 minutes of how some people, very rare people, are inexplicably connected to a world beyond the living. My guest is one of those very rare people who are, as the expression goes, born behind the veil. I'm Bruce Apar, and this is Hudson Valley WXYZ with Bruce the Blog. Hudson Valley WXYZ with Bruce the Blog is a weekly show that brings you extraordinary people making unique contributions to our quality of life, and we also like to explore ideas and topics and issues that affect all of us who live here. And I like to thank Carla Chase, who is the CEO of Chase Media Group, along with Frank J. Rich, the Chief Strategy Officer, for producing the show. And you could also see all of the past episodes going back several years, in fact, if you have a lot of time on your hands, on YouTube by searching on YouTube for Hudson Valley WXYZ or Bruce the Blog. And so I welcome my guest, Bob Buchanan. Hi, Bob.
How you doing, Bruce?
Of course, we've known each other for a number of years
Yes.
through our various and mutual travels, right, in and around the business community. And I think it was really through the
The Chamber
of Commerce,
right.
Uptown Chamber of Commerce, and others. But
Well,
you know, you're a man of many interests and many talents. As every time I meet you, I learned something else that you've done. Like before, we were talking about that you even have been a taxidermist, which I did not know that before. As Ed McMahon used to say to Johnny Carson, I did not know that. But seriously, at the beginning, of course, I was mentioning to our viewers the word Caulbearer, C-A-U-L, again, which is a word for veil, right?
Right.
And I have to
Yes.
I have to say, Bob, I don't remember at least ever hearing that particular phrase. And as I said, people have heard, of course, psychic or medium. I mean, are they the same or not?
Similar. Medium is, we do the same things that are very similar to mediums.
Yeah.
Mediums who get a lot more of the souls from the other side. I get fewer. I get the ones that want to talk to you. They'll come through, they'll let us know who they are, and the difference is I don't just tell you, you know, you're wearing your father's bracelet or whatever. They'll open up a window on your life, show me where you are and how to help you through that particular part of your life that you're struggling with. Right. Okay? That's where we differ. Caulbearer is very well known in the South, but not here.
In the southern United States?
Yeah.
Why is that, do you think?
I just don't know it, but it's been around forever. What happened, I've known forever, I was born with a veil, and I've had these experiences forever. I just didn't acknowledge them. I kind of hid from them for most of my life.
But you knew, or you sensed there was something different about
yes,
you?
Yes, yeah. One of my friends from high school, actually, she actually, when all this came out, she said, you know, I knew there was always something different about you back then. But I just kind of hid from it because I didn't understand it. And back when I grew up, it wasn't acknowledged around here.
What wasn't acknowledged?
The Caulbearer, the psychic medium stuff.
That there were such people.
Yeah, that really just wasn't. It was considered ESP or mind
mental
reading.
telepathy.
Yeah, things like that. So as I came out, I like to call it, and started doing that, a medium in North Carolina is the one who brought me out. I was talking, I went for a healing, and I brought the healer to a little boy with brain cancer, and he was checking with her on the healing. But while he was doing that healing, I was with him at the house. I'm sitting at the dining room table while the parents and him were inside. And this is a little boy with very rare brain cancer. And I'm starting to feel and see like Jesus. And I'm like, uh-oh. I'm thinking I better go to
Jesus Christ, you're saying?
Yes.
You were seeing him?
Yes. I'm like, maybe the nut house isn't too far from here. Maybe Wayne can drop me off.
Wow. So you had a vivid image?
Yes, it was, and and I didn't understand it, truthfully. And then I'm thinking the father's in there talking about, thinking about business. How's that possible? He's got a little boy in there with brain cancer. Well, they come out, and Wayne says, I asked several divine spirits. This energy healing, transformational healers is what they're known as. Wayne comes out and says, I asked several divine spirits to come in and help me, including Jesus. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, so that's why you were sensing it.
Yeah. And then the father goes.
So he was praying. Is that
Yeah,
what
I
he was
guess
praying in a sense?
Yeah, they ask these divine spirits to help them with the healing.
Sure. Yeah, I can actually relate to that, but go ahead.
All right. And the father says, sorry I wasn't engaged, but I'm thinking about a business meeting I've got Monday. I almost fell off my chair. I'm like, then I'm talking to the mother who I never met. I had met the father once before. And I'm telling her stuff I have no idea where it's coming from. Okay. On the way back, Wayne calls Sherry, a psychic medium down in North Carolina.
And Wayne is the father?
Wayne's the healer.
Oh, he's the healer, okay.
And so he calls Sherry to check on how the healing go. So she'll see what, she gets on that. He now calls me mostly. But, and so we're on the phone, we're on a speaker, we're driving back, and she says, who's Bob? And Wayne explained to her what the situation was. Me, yeah. And she said, Bob, you have to do this. And I've hid from this my whole life because of things I've seen.
Oh, so you're saying this is the moment when...
This is the moment. This is
you realize that
opening.
Being a Caulbearer was a calling,
exactly.
so to speak. Yeah.
Or that when they want you to do something, you're going to do it.
And how many years ago was that?
About 8, 9.
Oh,
eight
so
or
that's
9.
all it's been?
Yeah, I really didn't want to come out and do this. I really didn't. It's just...
Oh, so that's in the period of time even that I've known you,
yes,
actually, yeah.
Yeah. I've had it when we first met, but it never really...
Yeah, so I think I must have met you before, because I remember
you did.
When I first met you, I never knew this because you weren't acknowledging it, I guess. And then I do remember at some point you started saying it, and I said, really? I didn't know that.
Right.
So it's only been within the last, like you said, 8, 9, 10 years. And when you're talking about, Bob, you mentioned divine spirits. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? What are divine
this is all
spirits?
about spirituality, and not religion. And I know religions don't like it, okay, for whatever reason. I'm not going to go into that. But the divine spirits are whoever you believe in. God, definitely. Jesus, Mary, Joseph, anything.
Yeah.
They're the ones that actually give me this gift. They grant me this gift, okay? Without them wanting you to have this gift, you're not going to have it.
Right.
And you have to be prepared because it's not easy. This is not parlor games, to me especially. It's not fun and it's not a party, thing.
So you're saying it's not like people going into the carnival and seeing tarot readings. That's not what you do.
Or some mediums think it's cool because they got this gift and they can impress people. It can't be about me.
It's not show business.
It's not. Right. It really is not. It's serious stuff for me. It really is because of the healings that I bring to people.
Now, when you say healing, do you mean physical healing,
no,
medical,
mental?
You mean emotional?
Emotional healing.
Yeah. So we talked. So you mentioned divine spirits, and then I know you were telling me earlier when we were talking the other components of that.
Yeah. What happens is the way it works is essentially what we were talking about. For me, they'll come to me and they'll talk to me in whispers. It's like a mental telepathy more than talking. I see it in a faded black and white movie. Now everybody does it differently, okay? They take me 40 miles to get a mile, I like to tell people, because they're ADD or I am, or we both are, probably both are. And, but whatever they give me, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going with what they have to say, not with what you have to say, because you might forget or not realize what they're telling me, okay, until tomorrow or the next day. It's called psychic amnesia, and that's a very real component to this.
Psychic amnesia on the part of your client?
Yeah, I'll tell you something, and you're getting so much information, and some people are so overwhelmed by it, especially people who don't do it all the time, that they don't really understand what's being said or don't get it at that moment. Then, like tomorrow, I told you about, I had one woman that I told her sister gambled. She said no. I said, well, I'm seeing cards and a horse, so we're going to go with that. And
Right.
she texted her sister's friend the next day and found out she was a gambler. And so, and I don't
And
talk,
I know, and by the way, I did notice on your website, or one of your websites, BobbyPsychicMedium.com, there are several examples of that where you're saying people during the session will deny what you're telling them about a soul that they're related, and then the next day or whatever it is, the next week they'll send you a message saying you were right, that they checked it out.
yeah, I get that frequently.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't say I'm a psychic. I don't do the psychic thing, but I do get messages. I had one woman call me. She said, "Do you remember me? We met a year ago." I'm like, well, I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but that's besides the point. She said, "Well, you told me I was going to teach, but not adults, but not, students, somewhere in between, and I was going to be in a big white building." She says, "Well, I wrote all that down." She said, "And I'm now teaching, like graduates from high school, music down at Lincoln Center."
Oh, it's like a trade school, sort of, or
they
an
have
art school.
they have something there,
Oh,
but it's a big
yeah.
white building. And she
Right.
said it happened just like you told me. She said I wrote it down.
Right, wow. But going back again for a second, so you mentioned there were divine spirits, and then there are other links in that chain, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. That's what I'm here for.
there's the angels. That's what I like to call God's army. Okay, and then there's us. They're the souls. Okay, we don't become angels like some people say. The angels are a different entity.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, where do they emanate from?
I'm not sure.
Really?
I'll be honest with you. There's no set answers.
So it's sort of like there's no beginning or end.
There isn't.
One of those.
Yeah, and I rarely get angels, but when the angel comes to me, it's usually somebody's in really big trouble.
So when people say, and again, not only do I not say this lightly, but I am one of these people who lost a child. We lost our son Harrison 13 years ago when he was 15, and needless to say, unfortunately, whenever I hear or read about other people like us who've lost a, relatively young child, and they'll say, God has another angel. So, I mean, I understand that that's a source of comforting yourself.
Exactly.
But what you're saying, that's not...
No, we become
from
ourselves.
your world, that's not what it is.
We become ourselves, we become whole.
So whether it's my son or whoever, they're a soul, right? That's how you define it.
Right, and I agree with what they say, God has another angel, because in essence, they're over there. We become whole over there, Bruce. First, if we had...
I mean, you're saying in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And do you call it the afterlife? Or is that?
Yeah, I call it the afterlife.
Yeah.
But once we cross over, we become whole. And I realized that when I had this guy who was there, just came in to see me in a store I was working at, just for fun, okay? So his father and his uncle were with me, and all of a sudden it wasn't fun anymore because he's starting to get information,
Right.
and he's now crying. I said, by the way, your uncle's hitting your father with his elbow like this. He said, does he have his whole arm? I said, yes, he does. He said, well, he lost his arm from the elbow down. And I saw the whole arm. So that was I'm always getting lessons. I'm always being taught new stuff. And this is a journey. There's no papers or anything. And that's when I realized that we become whole. And they'll show me themselves dancing or running up and down stairs, and there'll be significant meaning to that, okay?
Wow, and then, so that's it. So I just wanted to establish it's the divine spirits from whence you say you get your gift, basically, and then angels, which are not the same as souls. Souls are people who have left us, but also the living are souls, right?
Yeah, I believe.
And then there. So those are the three: divine spirits, angels,
I believe
and
we
souls.
always have our soul is always connected to the other side.
Right.
So we always have a connection.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, and again, just by way of example, I wish I didn't have this example from my personal life, obviously, but so last night I just had a dream about Harrison, and the dreams are always really nice dreams. They're sweet dreams. I see him, and my wife Elise will say that's a visitation.
It is.
I mean, is that what you?
Yeah, the
really?
difference, the visitations.
And what's interesting is, so my daughter Alyssa, who's 25, and I have dreams about Harrison. Elise, not so much. Which is, she was like the best mother any child could have. That's for sure. And but yeah, so she, she says they're visitations, and then she'll say she wonders why she doesn't experience it as much.
Because I think she's connected more to them, where you and your daughter probably need that validation.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, wow.
And the difference
wow.
between a dream,
Being the mother, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
Well, no, she took care. You know,
she's very connected.
He had a
to
lot
him.
of medical issues.
I mean,
and she
even
took-
now,
yeah.
she's connected to him.
Right. Right.
Okay, your wife has a stronger connection, I think, even you realize. To
Okay.
him.
Well, I'm
Okay.
going to tell her that.
But and if you want, we'll come and I'll sit with all.
Yeah, I'd like to.
on
You know,
time.
oh no, yeah,
But
thank you.
What happens is the dream has to be like one subject, very on purpose. It's not like you run into traffic, then you're painting a wall and he's there. It's always there. They're like talking to you. They're giving you some information. That's
Right.
the visit. That's the difference between a dream and a visitation. Okay. You also hear them when I call. Your brain is in flux. When you're just going to sleep, just waking up. When you're not thinking. Okay. That's how they can reach out to us.
When you're not thinking.
Yeah. When you're not
Right.
thinking.
Right.
Like you're probably like me. My brain's always going. Okay, but when I'm waking up, a lot of times 2 o'clock in the morning, the souls will wake me up
Right.
to tell me something.
At that time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. My cousin got in touch with me out in Florida. I didn't even know she existed, and about a picture. And then the next thing I know, next morning, 2 o'clock, my aunt and uncle are waking me up. That was her grandparents. And I'm like, Christ, you didn't talk to me that much while you were here. Okay.
Oh, you say your aunt and uncle who were no longer living?
No longer.
Oh,
yeah,
I
that
see.
are
Oh, when
passed.
you said waking you up, I thought you meant they were.
No, the past. I'm sorry, I should have made
I
that
see.
clear.
Oh.
And I get that a lot. I did a session with a woman, her husband showed me a nice white shirt while I was talking to her. Okay, and it didn't make sense to her. So, okay, we went on. Next morning, 2 o'clock, the husband wakes me up, look at my nice blue shirt. So I called her up, I said, he showed me a blue shirt. He said, well, he was a mailman. Okay, and then the session actually, I call them sessions, not readings.
Okay.
The session went beyond what we talked about that day.
Right.
Now, why did he choose 2 o'clock in the morning? Because the white shirt didn't connect with her. So that bothers me. Okay, so I might, if I was awake or came during the day, I might have thought maybe I'm thinking too much about, well, what color would have connected with her? He woke me up, so I wasn't even thinking about him. He said, look at my blue shirt. That I knew it was real.
And when did you? So, Bob, you're saying you knew for, I guess, and this is the question: did you know for virtually your whole life that you had this, or when did it first dawn on you that you had this gift?
Okay, knowing I've had the gift and dawning on me are two different things. I at probably 15 months, maybe a little earlier, I remember getting my
15 months old.
Old, yeah.
Which I could tell you, I don't think I'm atypical in this regard. I don't remember. I don't think anything from 15 months old. But you remember.
I can't remember much either.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I had lunch for lunch.
But you're saying you remember
like
when you were 15 months old.
Yes, I remember it like it was yesterday. Or even now, it's like a vivid vision. And my mother put me in for a nap, and I told her this when I was about 15, 16 years old. I told her, I said, you put me in for a nap. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. You gave me a bottle. And when she gave me that bottle, I heard a voice. I didn't realize now, but I heard, don't drink the bottle, it's bad. I took a drink, it was sour, the milk was sour. I threw it out of the crib. I never took a bottle since.
So you remember throwing it out of your crib?
Yeah,
Wow.
and my mother confirmed all of that. I said my crib was against the wall by the kitchen. It was a wall divided my bedroom and the kitchen. The window was at the foot of my crib. There was Venetian blinds there, and it was a very bright, sunny day. She's like, you can't possibly remember that.
But you
I said,
did.
yeah, I did. I
So
said, is
that,
it right?
and you're saying that's part of this gift?
That's what it. My father passed when I was 16. I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning. He wasn't supposed to pass. Woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning, knowing he passed. They called us at 8:30.
And but doesn't something like that though happen to people who don't have
Yes.
your gift, who are not called? But so when my father passed, when you told me this before about you knew before being told, and I remember the day that my father passed after heart surgery, and I woke up with a funny, I'm not going to call it a premonition, but just a funny feeling, right? So that does happen to other people.
Almost everybody has that.
Yeah.
Okay, and sometimes the problem with this little industry, some people have that, think they can expand it into doing what I do, but they really can't.
Right.
because they haven't been chosen.
Right. So you feel you've been chosen.
Yeah. I mean, but I had to learn, and from Sherry.
And Sherry is who again?
Sherry's the medium who first brought me
Oh, no, she's
out.
the one who said you have to do this.
Yeah,
That's
she
right.
said,
Right.
we actually had an argument. She said, you got to do this. I'm not doing it, Sherry. She said, you have to. I said, no way. She said, Bob, there's 7 divine spirits around you, and you have to do this.
7.
Yeah, I don't know where she came up with 7, but that's what she saw.
Okay.
And I had a good contract with Con Edison, and next thing you know, they started breaking down the contract, using their photographers more and more, me less and
Oh,
less.
this is as a photographer.
Yeah, as a photographer.
One of your other lines of
Right.
work.
But this is how they work, and they started taking that business away from me, slowly but surely, because they wanted me to do this. I didn't want
Con
to do
Edison?
this. Yeah, this.
Oh, the divine spirit.
spirits,
oh,
the
oh,
souls.
oh. You're saying
They push you into directions. They open the door, they point you in a direction, and if you don't follow like I refused, then things start falling
So you're
apart.
saying it's a destiny.
Destiny, exactly. And that's, so next thing I know, I'm doing it.
So apparently, part of your destiny has been now coming to fruition, even as we speak, to write a novel, right? That's part of this.
One of my books, I've got 3 books out, 2 photo books.
Right. Yeah, and you're an excellent photographer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's called The Lunch by Robert. We decided to use Robert to make me sound intelligent. Good luck with that, but anyway.
Oh, anybody who writes a book, obviously.
It was an arduous task. I started out with a 1-page observation, which I've been writing as a kid to get me through hard times.
Like a diary?
It's just not even a diary, just like what happened today, invent and get it going. Well, I sat down one Sunday after I had lunch with a friend, Cheryl, who was an artist in my group.
Not the Sherry, not the
Not
same.
the Sherry,
Right,
no.
okay,
There's nothing real about this book, okay?
Nothing real.
No, it's all fiction.
Right. And we should say it's called The Lunch,
The
and
Lunch.
people can go to Amazon and find it.
My publisher, Vossel Publishing, Vossel.
VOSS.
It's VOLOSSEL.
I could probably look it up as we talk. Yeah, okay. All right.
So.
Yeah, VOLO. It's like colossal.
Yeah.
It's colossal except a V instead of a C. Colossal. Okay.
Right. And he has it on, it's only on ebook right now. Hard copy will be out any day now. And you can go to his website and find it all over the place. There's people that put it out there that I never heard of, like Goodreads. I never heard of.
Oh,
people
Goodreads,
like
sure.
that.
I'm a member of Goodreads.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I sat down and write this 1 page about the lunch and something that happened. And next thing I know, I've got like 16 pages.
But this is a real lunch you had.
Yeah, it was a real lunch, but it wasn't about the lunch. I was going to write about the lunch and something that happened between Cheryl and I. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing this story playing out in my head. And next thing I know, I've got these 2 people having an affair, a reluctant affair. They didn't set out to have one. They're being pulled together somehow.
And that's the fictional part.
That's, and
nobody you know.
No.
Right.
And so he leaves. Jared is my main client. He leaves character.
Character, right?
He leaves the
Character.
lunch, goes to the beach. He goes into this trance. He's having his past life experience from the 1700s. He's a sailor.
So this is the plot you're saying?
Yes,
This is the plot.
You have, the past life experience is establishing them as soulmates. That's why this.
So they
affair
knew each
happened.
other in a past life?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you know what this sounds like? You know the Broadway musical On a Clear Day You Can See Forever? Do you
I've
know
heard
that?
of it. I
That's
don't know.
exactly the plot.
Is it?
That is the plot. Yeah, it's a great musical, by the way. It has a great music by Alan J. Lerner and lyrics by Burton Lane. But yeah, I mean, it's very similar to that, where these 2 people meet in the modern day, and they come to realize they knew each other like 200 years earlier.
That's similar. That's very similar. You're
Yeah.
right. So, as a story, it was like watching a movie, and I couldn't get out fast enough because I can't type. I'm like this, trying to get this movie out. I felt like a stenographer, and I ended up with, like I said, the 16 pages. People were reading it and saying, "This is a book," and I'm like, "How do you write a book?" Because I have no idea. And people told me, I got some advice, so I wrote this book. Didn't go crazy. If I felt like writing this Sunday, I wrote this Sunday.
Right.
It took me about 14 years to write the thing.
That's all right.
And I started the sequel to it. They told us you needed 3 books. It had to be a trilogy at the time.
Trilogy? Why?
Yeah,
Why?
Because that's what the publishers wanted. This is
okay.
back 14 years ago. So
Good things come in threes.
but let me tell you, there's no such thing as going to happen. I'm not going to do 3 books. It's a hard thing to write a book.
Yeah.
there is a second book. I've got the beginning, the end. I have to fill it in. So as I'm seeing this, I'm writing this past life experience, and a sailor, and I want to go out. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. I want to end this. I'm going to kill the sailor so I can finish this and get out. So
you mean the character, right?
Yeah, the character.
You're
obviously,
kill the character.
Yeah, maybe I should say that. In case,
well, you're a former policeman, so I want to make sure you don't get in trouble, Bob.
Thanks. So I was going to have him hung by the captain of the ship that he was on, working on.
Right.
But that's not how it happened. I won't say how it happened. All of a sudden, we're going right down the path. All of a sudden, it was a hard right, and I saw him killed in a totally different way.
And you're saying that this is something that just came to you?
Just out of the blue.
I mean, do you hear, whether it's writing this fictional romance novel that'll be out, by the way, in time for Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah.
By February 14th,
that's what we're
2016. Or whether it's, as a Caulbearer. I mean, do you hear voices? Do you literally hear voices?
Yeah, it's not like you see in a movie where you're talking to me and I'm just hearing your voice.
That's
in
what I
my
mean,
head.
though.
It's like a passing thought. It's hard to explain.
Right.
And Sherry taught me the difference. One of the reasons why I didn't do this is my kids would be out. I'd be worried about them, and I think I'm getting the same voices that I heard where something came true. And so I'm sitting up waiting for the police to come. Actually, no, the kids are walking through the door.
Right.
So I didn't know how to separate the two.
Right.
And it's not easy.
And by the way, when you were a police officer, which you were telling me was in the town of Greenburgh in Westchester, did this play into your police work, or
Oh, absolutely. Had a lot of felony arrests, but one example I really remember quite clearly
was, again, I'll invoke another movie, Minority Report. You know Minority Report?
No, I don't.
With Tom Cruise and, is it Steven Spielberg? Anyhow, where in the future they arrest people for thinking, they can read their mind.
Yes, yeah. I kind of remember that. Yeah. Right. So 3 o'clock in the morning, my partner and I are driving down 119, and we're passing a car. I told my partner, I said, pull the car over. I said, why? I said, it's stolen. He said, how do you know that? I just pull it over.
It wasn't the license plate, or you didn't?
I just got, as we're going by, I'm like, that car's stolen.
You didn't know? You didn't know, right?
Didn't know, had nothing, no file one. I mean, he didn't even look at the license plate because we were going somewhere. He pulls it over, and sure enough, it was stolen.
But isn't it true, and we have to actually wrap it up, Bob, but I definitely want to have you on again, because there's a lot of other things we could talk about, whether related to your being a Caulbearer or otherwise. But I was just going to say with that, isn't it true, I mean, I read about this, or you see it in movies or procedurals, that law enforcement will call in, right, people?
Some of them will. It's hard. I'm actually working a homicide.
You are?
Several. Okay.
Currently?
Yeah.
I saw that on your Facebook page. Something from 1972, right, or something like that.
No, the
70s.
The one I think I wrote was 1948.
But there's another one. You invoked Robert Durst, actually, somehow. He came into it.
Actually, we're looking into that unsolved murder in
Mahopac in Putnam County.
Yeah. We're having problems getting access to that. We want access to the file.
So it does help with police work.
Yeah, but you have to have enlightened police officers.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. But the other one is up in New Hampshire. And what I do during a session, I tell you, is there anybody you want to talk to that hasn't come through? And the woman said, yes, Stacy. I'm saying, Stacy has red hair, blah, blah, blah. She's choking herself. So she choked. And long story short, she did. And it's between two guys. And I saw the two guys.
She was murdered.
No, she was actually stabbed. But.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, Bob Buchanan, author of The Lunch. You can find it on Amazon, coming out right by February.
Hopefully so. Hopefully this week.
And it's going to be in both digital and
it's in digital
print?
now. You can get that.
So digital is currently available.
Digital's been out for months.
All right, great. And will be out in hardbound or
the hard copy will be.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah. And thanks a lot, Bob. This has really been fascinating.
Thanks for having me.
No, of course. Anytime. Like I said, we'll have you back.
Anytime.
All right. Thanks. And thank you for watching Hudson Valley WXYZ with Bruce the Blog. And remember, when Bruce the Blog listens, people talk. Thank you.